Over the past 2 weeks, people on the internet have unearthed troves of photos and video footage connecting various celebrities to the hip-hop mogul, Puffy. Big names ranging from Martha Stewart to Leonardo DiCaprio have all been photographed at Puffy's infamous parties, and some have previously hinted at witnessing wild behavior at such events. Those in Puffy's immediate circle, such as former proteges Usher and Justin Bieber, are under particularly intense scrutiny. Internet users recently resurfaced a 2016 Howard Stern interview in which Usher said very curious things took place at Puffy's home when he lived there. Afterwards, Usher's Twitter account briefly disappeared, leading to speculation that he was trying to hide something. His posts have since reappeared, and he denied scrubbing his account, blaming it on a hack. Most celebrities who have been publicly linked to Puffy have not issued a statement since his arrest, leading many to wonder who may have known what and when. Oh, and obviously Puffy has also denied all allegations against him. Many high-profile celebrities are scared to death to speak out against Puffy after he was thrown behind bars on charges recently, as a 2-decade-old clip resurfaced of the hip-hop mogul joking about locking women inside his wild parties. In the video, Puffy told Conan O'Brien in a 2002 interview that he hosts quinky-dinky parties with loads of beautiful women and booze. He said a lot of ladies drink water at parties, so if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave. Gotta keep them there. You need locks on the doors. And Puffy said that he also keeps the AC off and the room hot so people get comfortable and loose. Ooh. The I'll Be Missing You rapper may have been bragging about his now notorious freak-off parties, which prosecutors, because this is now a court case, said involved women who had been slipped something, who were forced to engage in prolonged and derogatory acts with big-name celebrities. And like I said before, a lot of the celebrities spotted at these degenerate parties over the past couple of decades have still not spoken up against the music mogul, likely out of fear for their own reputations. Celebrities are silent because they are scared to death of their brands being tanked by fans over ties to Puffy. And even worse, they fear if they cross him, things could end in disaster, at least according to Eric Schiffer, CEO of Reputation Management Consultants. This is what he said in a statement to news outlets. Some of the A-listers, by the way, include ex-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, former TV co-host Ashton Kutcher, longtime friend Naomi Campbell, fellow rapper Jay-Z. Another PR person, Doug Eldridge, said, "There's no shortage of reasons why celebs are remaining tight-lipped. First, the nature of these allegations are fairly gruesome, from intercourse-related crimes to slipping folks substances without their consent, and so forth and so on." Eldridge said the scope and scale of evidence that was collected during the federal raid included a lot of phones, a lot of computers, and now more than 50 individuals who are reportedly cooperating as witnesses. Third, the possible depth and reach of those who might be complicit and therefore compromised for having participated in Puffy's illicit parties, kind of staggering. So Puffy is currently facing a minimum of 15 years in prison, and did plead not guilty to the charges in federal court in Lower Manhattan. A judge ordered the Bad Boy Records founder be held without bail pending trial, and was denied when his lawyer tried to appeal the decision the day afterwards. Puffy actually previously suspected that his parties would raise eyebrows, and he said so in a 1999 interview with Entertainment Tonight. He said, "They're probably going to be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we want to have a good time. Whenever you bring up a different element into people's environment, things that broaden people's horizons, people get intimidated. It's a lot of people out there that feel intimidated by it." Another PR expert, Eddie the media trainer, also weighed in on why folks might be choosing to keep their mouths shut right now. Say you have a client who worked with Puffy, and the news of his arrest comes out. What's your game plan? What do you do first? You kind of have to look at it like a chess match. You're trying to think a few steps ahead. Like, okay, if I do this right now, what is the chessboard going to look like later? And what are my options going to be? One thing that's important to remember with this scenario, my sense is that we are in the first or second inning of something that is going to go on for a while, especially if this goes to trial. There's going to be discovery, and all sorts of information is going to come out. Sworn testimonies, victim statements. And so from a crisis strategy standpoint, you basically want to say, okay, how do I keep as many options as possible for as long as possible so I can have as much control as possible? Thinking about it strategically, what is the advantage to making a comment right now? I would say there is none, and your goal is to distance yourself as much as possible from the center of the controversy, especially if you weren't involved. Making a comment is more likely to just attract the kind of attention that you don't want. And when asked specifically at what point do you talk to the press or issue a statement, the answer is never, depending on who you are and depending on what your involvement is. In Ashton Kutcher's best case scenario, this is a story for the next week or whatever. He doesn't comment about it, it goes away. Nobody ever asks him about it again, and he never has to address it. It's in his best interest to be silent. One person who has come forward might provide some answers as to why others are choosing to stay mum. 50 Cent is not holding back about his longtime rival. The rapper and television producer addressed his relationship with Puffy in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter that was published recently. So 50 Cent, who worked in a lot of the same circles as Puffy back in the day, explained why he never attended the Bad Boy record founder's famous parties, where Puffy allegedly committed some of the heinous acts he's been accused of. He said, "I've been very vocal about not going to Puffy parties and doing SHIT like that. I've been staying out of that SHIT for years. It's just an uncomfortable energy connected to it." 50 Cent said, "He asked to take me shopping. I thought it was the weirdest SHIT in the world, because that might be something that a man says to a woman. And I'm just like, nah, I'm not effing with this weird energy or weird SHIT, coming off the way he was just moving. From that, I wasn't comfortable around him." 50 Cent specifically addressed the 2016 video that emerged earlier this year, the one that shows Puffy attacking his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hotel hallway. He's like, okay, first he denied that it even happened, and then the tape comes out, so it means everything that N-word says is a lie. Well, that's what 50 said of Puffy. And by the way, Puffy has strongly denied the allegations in all of the suits against him. 50 Cent said when somebody watches that, if they have a daughter and they can imagine her being under those circumstances, that SHIT is crazy. Like, they let him get away with it. With all the influence and power you have, the person you're with is supposed to want to be a part of your life, not be forced. The Power producer and actor is also making a documentary about the allegations against Puffy, and after a bidding war, Netflix purchased the rights to the documentary back in May. 50 Cent said last year that the proceeds from the docuseries would go towards victims of SA. And when asked by The Hollywood Reporter what made him produce the documentary, 50 Cent said, "I'm the only one from hip-hop culture that's produced quality projects. We do have a lot of talent within our culture where the talent has developed a comfortability in front of the camera. So they're usually a part of it as an actor or driving force of why someone would watch the project, but not the behind-the-scenes production, producing the whole project. So there's a difference." And despite working, once again, very much adjacent to Puffy in the early 2000s, the indie club hitmaker clarified the two were never friends. He said it was mostly work. "I wouldn't call it a friendship because there wouldn't be disappointment between us if we didn't speak to each other." He said there were points where we worked together. Jennifer Lopez actually told him he should work with me, 50 Cent, as a songwriter in the beginning. And he said once he was around at the early stages, and he could have done my record deal at that point. And that happened in the year 2000. And 50 Cent said, following that, he was fired at by somebody outside of his grandmother's house after the label had signed him. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just getting back to work, and Puffy would call me to write. I remember my son's mom would answer, and I didn't want to get on the phone, like, no. And she was like, 'What the F? We need money.' She's looking at me like, 'Why? Why don't you want to talk to him?' And 50 Cent went on like, 'I didn't ever party. I didn't hang out with him. Puffy is a business person. When people call him a producer, I see people that were taken advantage of, who produced things that he took from them. He got the credit. He's not a producer. He's been able to take advantage of the business and the creatives in it. 50 Cent doesn't have any interest in doing that. He says he falls under the creative, so he just didn't take to hanging out with that." 50 Cent was also asked why other celebrities aren't speaking up about Puffy like he is. And he was like, "Come on." He said some of them were involved at the parties and enjoyed themselves, so they don't know what the F is on the tape or what's not on tape, so they're not going to say anything because they might have had too much fun. And then you've got other people who look and go, "Well, that's not my business and I don't want to be in it." Then you've got a part of culture that says that's snitching or, stuff like that. And it's not uncomfortable for him to say that because, well, he's been saying it for many, many years. He's been telling us he doesn't mess with them. He doesn't like the way you're moving. He's like, this is all crazy. And he stated everybody else is not going to be as comfortable saying that as he is. And that's all for today. See ya. After being fired from Hot 97 in 1998, Wendy Williams accused Puff of playing a role in all of that. In 2004, Williams wrote that she would never forget the hell that he put her through. On a 2015 episode of her show, she commented on the allegations that Cassie Ventura was hiding from him, and she painted him as a mogul that you can't escape. That same year, Williams asked Jennifer Lopez if she'd ever get back together with him, and Lopez's mother, Guadalupe Rodriguez, basically answered for her daughter with a look that said everything. Aubrey O'Day alleged that Puff groomed her and controlled her appearances while filming Making the Band when she was around 21 years old. The former Danity Kane songstress recently got candid about the criticism that she faced while working on the MTV reality series alongside Puff, who was an executive producer on the show. She said, "I look at the beginning of the show, and I was auditioning, and I'm so young, and I'm like, I don't know how I became like the really gorgeous-faced one," she said on an appearance of the Crisis Queen podcast. Puff is on camera saying how much he hates it, but he's off camera telling me all the ways I need to be groomed properly, like down to my toenails. Yeah, one day, apparently, the rapper was like, "Yeah, you're the looker of the band," but sent her out of the studio in the same day because her toes weren't properly polished. And she said a lot of this was a part of the cycle of harm. She said, "With Puff, I saw multiple sides of him, but I don't know who I was even talking to that was sober. There was always an element of something going on." O'Day claimed Puff once forbid her from being friends with a certain very big name person whom he was also involved with. And she said that was the first time he had kind of said, "You're not allowed to be around that person ever again." And oof. She's like, and that was the first time I started to see the dynamics change with just how he approached me on camera. So like I mentioned before, she was part of Danity Kane until 2008, and then she was booted for not doing what was expected of her. But she said that wasn't talent-wise, that was in other areas. She said after coming off of Puff, there's not many people you can go into a room with and get that type of feeling from. Kind of cryptic, but okay. And she's mentioned that like grooming is a process. You're not just harmed on day one. Groomers make their victims feel comfortable before flipping a switch. She said it's like the military. They break you down and build you back up into the soldier that they need you to be for what they need you for. Now, Puff allegedly tried to buy her silence by offering her publishing rights back in 2023, but allegedly she declined the deal. Cassie Ventura was in a relationship with Puff from 2007 till 2018, and there were the signs of trouble in paradise. In 2015, Cassie posted a photo with the caption, "How I sleep knowing that I'm single and nobody's cheating on me." And then the next year, it was reported that the two were seen arguing in Beverly Hills. 5 years after their final breakup, Cassie filed a lawsuit against Puff. The lawsuit specifically accuses him of all kinds of violence, harm, harassment, discrimination, hostile work environment, and other things I can't talk about. And although he denied these claims, the lawsuit would be settled out of court. But that's not the end. Then there was footage from 2016 that hit the surface of the news, depicting Puff kind of harming Ventura. He issued an apology, but a lot of folks have been supporting Cassie, rightfully so. His attorney, Ben Brafman, said in a statement that Puff vehemently denies these offensive and outrageous allegations. For the past 6 months, he has been subjected to Cassie's persistent demand of $30 million, under the threat of writing a damaging book about the relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. Despite withdrawing her initial threat, Ms. Ventura has now resorted to filing a lawsuit riddled with baseless and outrageous lies, aiming to tarnish his reputation and seeking a payday. Well, when it came to what Cassie had to say about it, she kept it professional. "We will always support law enforcement when it seeks to prosecute those that have violated the law." That was it. Hopefully this is the beginning of a process that will hold Puff responsible for his depraved conduct. A week after Puff's arrest earlier this year, actress Jenny Mullen revealed that she was once invited to one of the music mogul's freak-offs when she was actually under the legal drinking age in the States. She said, "I was in San Diego and this guy came over and he's like, 'My boss wants to meet you.' And she was just like hanging out. She was in jeans, a t-shirt. She eventually went over, met Puff, and she joked that he had the littlest hand she's ever felt. And then allegedly he invited her up to his room for a party and she declined. And then she's like, 'Guys, would I have been in a freak off? Would I have been like captured in his room? And would there be footage of me to this day in some sort of crazy exploitative freak off?' Cat Williams predicted Puff's downfall during an appearance on the Club Shay Shay podcast in January of this year. She said all of these deviants is catching all hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. Doesn't matter who you is, Pastor TD, Jigs, any of them. Williams also claimed he was invited to several of Puff's infamous parties over the years, but always declined. He said, "I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times just to protect my integrity and that something that hasn't been violated that I was telling you about. Because Puff be wanting to party and you gotta tell him no." He repeated, like, you gotta tell him no. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything. I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
City girls are not. In Rodney Lil Rod Jones's $30 million lawsuit against the rapper Diddy, owner and operator of Bad Boy Records, he says his life's been determinably impacted since agreeing to work on the Love album Off the Grid. One of the instances that left Jones so traumatized, he states, was that Young Miami's cousin and/or assistant, he's not sure, tried forcing unconsensual relations with him. Jones says he was with Diddy, Young Miami, and the female cousin person on Thanksgiving in 2022. He alleges that Miami's cousin person burst into the bathroom while he was inside, at which point she tried forcefully touching him with her mouth and her hands. Jones attempted to get away only to have the woman persist him back into the main room. Young Miami is being called to court as a defendant for Diddy, but also faces questioning on the stand due to Jones's allegations as she was among those who were paid monthly fees by Diddy to work as his working girls. More on that in a bit. Cuba Gooding Jr. is an Oscar-winning actor who's also being accused of harassment, an essay by Jones. Jones states in his case that he believes that Diddy was G-wording Gooding Jr. to behave in a similar manner to which Jones accuses Diddy of behaving. Hear my playful language? Remember, this is a brand spanking new court case. We can't assume anything, it's all alleged, so take everything with a grain of salt. Anyways, one recording incident that warrants harassment claims from Jones occurred while on a yacht in January 2023. Jones alleges he was introduced to Gooding, who proceeded to grope him and try and touch him before he had to forcibly push him away. To quote, Mr. Combs had dominion and control over the actions of Cuba Gooding Jr. and failed to step in and stop Cuba Gooding Jr. from essaying Mr. Jones, the suit says. But with multiple allegations in this lawsuit, including these, screenshots are also included that claim to show the moments surrounding the alleged incidents. Diddy's own son is apparently involved. Our next segment is on Justin Combs, who thinks he's something of a rapper himself, but he really just spends his time crashing cars and spending his father's money. But you know what? He might have also witnessed or participated in something crucial, as Jones alleges in his case that in September of 2022, a man identified in the lawsuit only as G, who was a friend of Diddy's son Justin, was popped. During the alleged incident, Jones says he heard bangs while 2 feet away from the restroom at the Chalice recording studio in Los Angeles. When Diddy and Justin exited the restroom, Jones saw G suffering from a wound on the floor of the bathroom, at which point he offered assistance. Per Jones, Diddy, quote, forced him to lie to the authorities about the event, with police being told it was the result of a drive-by. A rep for Diddy issued a statement to TMZ denying the allegations, which they say are lies from a desperate person, referring to Jones. The lawsuit implicates Justin of also procuring girls for parties where Combs then actually apparently spiked people and recorded them. Ugh. Meanwhile, Stevie J is also at the center of an allegation. Bad Boys Records producer allegedly, according to Jones, was also being G-worded by Diddy, who used his quoted admiration of Stevie J as part of what Jones says was intended to leave to Stevie J's anxiety concerning homosexuality being erased. This is pretty whack. Again, reminder, all alleged, all speculation. But continuing on, Jones alleged that Diddy even once played him footage showing Stevie J like having intercourse with a guy. And Stevie J himself had to respond to this online since the news broke, telling TMZ his lawyer will be handling for this from going forward. Again, screenshots are included in the lawsuit in connection to this, and an adult film star named Knockout has been connected as well. In fact, in reality, to stir the pot, Knockout himself addressed the leaked screenshots on Twitter, admitting it's me amid speculation. So things are heating up. Meanwhile, Prince Harry is having his awkward youth years hanging with rappers pulled up by Jones, who cites that Harry in his court case, but not as a perpetrator, rather as a witness to acts done, which ultimately isn't better, especially given it's the context that there's some forms of trafficking charges the feds have laid against Diddy. According to Jones's lawsuit, first filed in February, Diddy's co-defendants were rewarded for, quote, participating in and facilitating Combs' trafficking venture by getting affiliation and access to Mr. Combs' popularity. According to Jones, Mr. Combs was known for throwing the best parties. Affiliation with and/or sponsorship of Mr. Combs' trafficking parties garnered legitimacy and access to celebrities such as famous athletes, political figures, artists, musicians, and international dignitaries like British Royal Prince Harry. Oh, there's the name drop. While it can be argued it's kind of deeply unfair for Harry to be singled out by name when he has not been accused of anything wrong and others aren't named, his naming in the suit exposes how interconnected the elite of our world are and how they can truly be anywhere with anyone. Don't think there's some posh people, folks. On to another industry notable. This time it's the former Motown Records CEO Ethiopia Habtemariam, who Jones says in his lawsuit visited Combs' house during writing sessions and social gatherings, and that she, quote, had a duty and obligation to ensure working girls and girls in general were not present, and that Mr. Combs was not spiking any drinks. Another staffer accused by Mr. Jones is Christina Coram. So in his lawsuit, Jones alleges he was once forced to work in Combs' bathroom while Combs, Diddy, showered in a naked glass enclosure, according to the lawsuit. When he raised concerns about these types of behavior to Coram, Combs' chief of staff, the lawsuit says she dismissed him as friendly horseplay, stating those acts were Mr. Combs' way of showing he liked you. Jones was also told by Christina, you know, Sean will be Sean. The lawsuit accuses Corman of aiding and abetting Combs' essay of Jones and working with Combs to groom him into a male-on-male relationship. Jones has also listed UMG boss Lucian Grange in his lawsuit, stating that he either, quote, knew or should have known about the drinks getting spiked at parties. Specifically, Jones says that Universal sponsors and Grange attended listening parties at Combs' LA home, where Jones alleges that working girls and younger women were present and that they were getting spiked sometimes. It's no secret that Mr. Combs had specific bottles of alcohol designated for females and other bottles designated for his staff, his artists, and himself, the lawsuit claims. Grange knew or should have known that Mr. Combs was spiking attendees through laced bottles of De Leon tequila and Ciroc vodka at ads. As a sponsor of these events, defendant Grange had a duty and obligation to ensure working girls and younger women were not present and that Mr. Combs was not spiking the alcohol. At this point, with names and information still developing, maybe we should take a second and probably cover what's going on. So let's dedicate our last 2 points to unhashing how this all started. First, we're gonna start with how Cassie blew it open. So November 16th, Diddy's ex, Cassandra Cassie Ventura, filed a federal lawsuit in New York alleging years of violence. Her graphic lawsuit included such content as SA, domestic incidents, psychological and emotional torment. Diddy even blew up Kid Cudi's car to deter him from seeing Cassie romantically. No wonder J. Cole's been riding a bike everywhere since he and Diddy fell out. Diddy did what he does best in response. He denied, one for each D in his dumbass nickname, and he ensured she settled out of court with him, as Diddy always does when someone sues him. Go look at his track record. But it didn't make it go away this time. On December 7th, Tiffany Red, a Grammy-winning singer-songwriter, published an open letter to Combs via Rolling Stone, stating despite the settlement, Cassie's claims were all true. She even detailed a party where she claims Combs separated Cassie from her and their friends for what Cassie described in her lawsuit as a arrangement where you make her perform acts with male adult workers against her will. Red's graphically detailed public letter had power, especially as she detailed other instances where even she became victim to Diddy's violence just by being in his presence, which helped lead to our next segment and final, the other accusations. 5 days after Combs and Cassie settled, a former Syracuse University college student sued Combs for allegedly taking advantage of her and recording it in 1991, just before New York State's Adult Survivors Act on November 23rd deadline. A second anonymous accuser filed a lawsuit against Combs, and also singer-songwriter Aaron Hall, stating they had violated she and a friend, and Diddy even showed up at her house a few days later, threatening and harming her and the other victim to ensure they wouldn't share the story. Then comes December 6th, another Jane Doe plaintiff filed a lawsuit against Combs' Daddy's House Recording and Bad Boy Entertainment, alleging that in 2003 she was physically violated by Combs, former Bad Boy president Harve Pierre, and another unidentified man at Combs' studio in New York City. Since this fourth accusation now, Diddy's been falling to ruins. Hulu has canned his reality show centered around his family, Combs had to step aside as the chairman role at Revolt, and the liquor company Diageo asked a judge to prevent him from appearing on the new advertisement for De Leon. February rolled in, and on the 27th, Combs was sued by producer Rodney Little Rod Jones for $30 million for SA. The producer, as we know, worked on the Love album and says he was subject to all sorts of extreme crimes crimes in a 70-page lawsuit. And then now, March 25th, the newest update. Law enforcement officials carried out simultaneous raids of Combs' home in Los Angeles and Miami, with Jane and John Doe interviews being conducted. And there's some more tea to come.
Starting off, we have Daphne Joy. Now, after Diddy's place got raided, rapper 50 Cent, real name Curtis Jackson III, responded on Twitter saying, "Now it's not Diddy do it, it's Diddy done. They don't come like that unless they got a case." Now, while 50 Cent was not named in the lawsuit against Combs, a woman identified as Daphne Joy, who shares a child with 50 Cent, was named in the suit. In a statement posted on Instagram, Joy responded to 50 Cent saying, "Everything is a joke until our safety is compromised, which is happening right now." Now, Joy went on to accuse 50 Cent of physically mistreating her and said, "You've broken our hearts for the last and final time." Moving on to Young Miami. Young Miami, a member of City Girls, is mentioned in Jones's amended complaint filed in the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of New York. Now, she is not a defendant, nor is she accused of misconduct. She is listed as being a part of Combs' operation and accused of bringing Diddy illegal substances on a private jet. The complaint says she was retained on a monthly stipend as one of sex workers, and it also alleges that her cousin, named as Jane Doe 1, took advantage of Rodney. Now, since the raid, she has shared numerous posts on social media, but many of the posts are promoting a new song that she is releasing. Aaron Hall, an R&B singer who was part of the group Guy, was named as a defendant in a complaint filed against Diddy last November in the New York Supreme Court ahead of the expiration date for New York's Adult Survivors Act, which provide a one-year window in which people could bring cases of SA outside the typical statute of limitations. The plaintiff, who is named Lisa Gardner, accuses Combs and Aaron Hall of SAing her and her friend in Aaron's apartment after a music industry event hosted by MCA Records in 1990. She says Combs coerced her into being intimate with him and that afterward, Aaron barged into the room, pinned her down, and forced her to be intimate with him too. The plaintiff also alleges that Combs found her at her home and choked her until she passed out, as he was worried his girlfriend would find out about the incident, the complaint says. Now let's talk about Cuba Gooding Jr. An amended complaint filed in March in the U.S. District Court of Southern District New York by Rodney Jones lists Cuba Gooding Jr. as a defendant. Now, Rodney accuses Cuba of harassment and SA. Specifically, Rodney accuses Combs of grooming him to pass him off to Cuba. Now, the two were left alone in a makeshift studio on a yacht rented by Combs, according to the complaint. There, Gooding began inappropriately touching Rodney. Now, it's to be known that the actor previously pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor count of forcibly touching, so this incident being real isn't shocking. Now we have Lucian Grange. The CEO of Universal Music Group and father-in-law to Sophia Richie, Lucian Grange is also listed as a defendant in Rodney's amended complaint. He's accused of aiding and abetting Combs, specifically in racketeering and trafficking. Rodney says that as CEO, Lucian had a duty to ensure the financial support they provided to Sean Combs and Love Records was not being used for drugs, and laced alcohol. Now, attorneys for Grange have filed a motion to dismiss, in which they called the accusations offensively false. In a sworn statement to the court, Grange called the accusations completely untrue and absurd, and said he plans to pursue both plaintiffs and his counsel for having made such false accusations. Now, Grange also points to the fact that he is the CEO of a multinational public company, and that he's not involved in day-to-day operation of the company's thousands of agreements. Now, in a statement to Business Insider, Grange's attorney Donald S. Zarkin called the complaint offensively reckless. The plaintiff has now attempted to amend his claims against Sir Lucian, removing the original set of outrageous falsehoods related to Sir Lucian, replacing them with wholly contradictory new falsehoods that are equally absurd, he said. Not only will we demonstrate the offensive falsity of these claims, but we will seek recovery of every penny of cost and damage caused by their assertion. Moving on to Justin Dior Combs. Justin Dior Combs, Diddy's 30-year-old son, is a defendant in Rodney's amended complaint. In a wide-range list of allegations, Rodney accuses Justin Combs of soliciting as well as engaging in freak-offs. He also says the younger and older Combs were the only two people present in the room when G, a friend of his, was shot at a recording studio, implying that one of them shot G. Now, Justin Combs was at Diddy's Los Angeles home when it was raided by feds and was seen handcuffed on the lawn outside, though he was not arrested. Justin Combs' lawyer said that the complaint was utterly bonkers on his radio show Beyond the Legal Limit. It's clearly written in an effort to get as much publicity as possible, not only for the case, but for the lawyer whose name I don't even remember, literally some maniac, he said. Next up are the anonymous celebrities. While there are anonymous or redacted celebrities named in the suit, it's not too difficult to figure out who they are. While Chris Brown isn't named specifically in court documents, he's referenced as one of two redacted figures, redacted R&B singer, who was specifically alleged to have been in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home consorting with girls. Now another clue that points to it being Chris is the footnote at the bottom of the same page, which reads, a Grammy Award-winning R&B singer who had trouble with law enforcement after assaulting a Belgian billionaire. Then, like Chris, while Meek Mill wasn't named specifically in court documents, he's referenced as one of the two redacted rapper figures who was specifically and allegedly in Mr. Combs' Los Angeles home consorting with girls and f***ers. Now another clue that points to it being Meek is in the footnote at the bottom of the same page, which reads, he is a Philadelphia rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. And lastly, we have Bishop TDJ. While the bishop was not alleged to have done anything illegal per court documents, he was named as one of the people Diddy allegedly intended to leverage a relationship with in order to soften the impact on his public image of Casey Venture's lawsuit. Now Diddy and the bishop joined forces back in 2021 for an ongoing religious series entitled Kingdom Culture with TD Jakes. In 2022, the two were spotted together in photographs at Diddy's 53rd birthday party, which prompted an outcry and criticism on social media about the relationship between religious leaders and music figures. In late 2023, the bishop would come under fire again on social media after an unfounded report claimed that he was engaging in activity with men at Diddy's parties. Now, he addressed the Diddy rumors once in a December 2022 comment from his representatives, and again during a Christmas Eve sermon, during which he let folks know that they can log off the online broadcast of the service if they came to hear him address a lie. Now, starting off, we have Cassie Ventura. After dating for 10 years, Cassie and Diddy broke up, and in 2018, Cassie has since come out with a lawsuit against Combs that has gained worldwide attention. The case was settled the day after it was filed for an unknown figure, and at the time, Diddy insisted that his ex was out for a quick payday and that all of her allegations were false. But now that CCTV footage was released from 2016, showing an altercation between the two of them where Diddy was incredibly violent to Cassie, it's clear that it wasn't just a cash grab. Diddy then posted to his Instagram page basically admitting everything and claiming that he takes full responsibility for his actions. He said, I was disgusted when I did it, I'm disgusted now, I went and I sought out professional help, I got into going to therapy, going to rehab. I had to ask God for his mercy and grace, I'm so sorry. He added that he was committed to being a better man each and every day, but you only have to look at the comment section to know that fans don't believe him. They criticized Diddy for only apologizing now that the evidence has finally come out. After all, it's alleged that he paid $50,000 to keep the CCTV footage from the incident. But he failed to realize that Cassie had a copy of it too, and clearly this was the final nail in the coffin when it came to his defense. Cassie's lawyers released a statement about his apology, saying that it was more about himself than the many people he hurt. They said when Cassie and multiple other women came forward, he denied everything and suggested that his victims were looking for a payday. He was only compelled to apologize once his repeated denials were proven false, and it shows his pathetic desperation, and no one will be swayed by his disingenuous words. And then there were also many other celebrities who raised red flags about Diddy. Now, Aubrey O'Day first met the rapper while working with Dainty Kane, which she was a member of. 3 years after the group was formed, Aubrey and another member of the girl brand, D Woods, were fired by Combs. He then went on the air to say that their attitude needed to be humbled and claimed that she had diva behavior that went unchecked. But that's not the only side of the story. In the years since, Aubrey claims that she was fired because she refused to do things that were expected of her outside of recording and doing interviews to promote the band and the albums. And you can pretty much guess what she was saying. Now, given all the recent allegations against Diddy, this statement seems to hold a lot more weight. In fact, Aubrey also spoke out against his recent apology video and wasted no time criticizing his response on social media. She wrote, Diddy did not apologize to Cassie, he apologized to the world for seeing what he did. Along with her words, she included a photo of the blanket statement that Combs pinned to his social media accounts denying all the allegations. She went on to say, he says he's disgusted with himself now, and he was disgusted with himself then, but apparently he wasn't disgusted enough with himself to not pin this statement out, calling her a liar and denying all of it. And it wasn't just one member of Dainty Kane turning against him. The whole girl group has beef with Diddy. They were supposed to be the next big thing when they were signed to Bad Boy in 2004, but in 2008 when 2 of their members were fired, the dynamic of the group changed. They were never able to recapture the sound the original 5 had when Diddy signed them. Now over the years the women have naturally grown apart, but one thing they can agree on is that they have encountered sexist remarks from Diddy and those around him over the years at the very minimum. Now because of this controversy, the rapper distanced himself from the group, who eventually disbanded in 2009. Speaking of music, Diddy has also had plenty of feuds with other rappers, one of the most infamous being 50 Cent. Whether it's the way Diddy dresses, talks about Notorious Big, or collaborates with other artists, 50 Cent is not here for it. Now to say that he dislikes Diddy is an understatement. In fact, 50 Cent has been one of the loudest voices when it comes to the Cassie lawsuit. When speaking out about the CCTV footage, he said, "This is why they put that tape out. They know they can't charge him with what we saw, but they know we can't unsee what we saw." He then took another jab at Combs for a statement he released when he said he had sat silently and watched people try to assassinate his character, destroy his reputation and legacy. In response, 50 said, "The lie detector test has determined that this was a lie," which is hilarious because we all know how that turned out. Now even as far back as 2006, 50 Cent released a diss track about him called The Bomb, where he accused Diddy of continuing to profit off the name of Notorious Big, who was signed to his Bad Boy Records label. Now whether or not this is true, the man is clearly one of his biggest haters to this day. Now we have Cat Williams. During a candid discussion on the Club Shay Shay podcast, Cat Williams suggested Diddy would be exposed in 2024. The comedian also alleged you have to tell Diddy no, with further claims that he has receipts from everything he shared with host Shannon Sharpe on the episode. At one point he said, "All these big deviants are catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you're Diddy or whoever, Jake's, all lies will be exposed. Anyone who takes it the wrong way knows why they will take it the wrong way," he continued. Now in another snippet, Williams claimed that he had to turn down $50 million 4 times. P Diddy be wanting to party and you've got to tell him no. I did, he alleged. Now the actor also claimed that he'd known the dirty details about several key players in the entertainment industry and their various wrongdoings for over 30 years. Now Cat was also candid about Diddy's treatment of women, claiming he'd attempted to avoid the world of rappers and the women they associate with. "I don't want to look at nothing, I don't want to have," he said, adding, "Because I know how blessed I am, if I look at it, I got it, that's how Diddy be feeling," he said. Moving on to Eminem. The rapper's 2018 diss track called Kill Shot Targeting has resurfaced amid Diddy's multiple lawsuits and home raids. In the years-old song, Eminem suggests that he had something to do with the passing of Tupac, referring to the tragic drive-by incident in 1996. While this lyric alone was a bold call-out, Eminem later clarified in the song that the lyrics were a joke when he sang, "I'm just playing Diddy, you know I love you." But while Eminem made it clear that it was a joke, Diddy still clapped back on an episode of the Joe Budden YouTube podcast. During his guest appearance, he responded to the lyrics that involved him sharing a very ambiguous reaction with listeners. In the podcast episode, it was claimed that Diddy said the situation with Eminem was handled privately and that there is nothing to say about it. "It's in my hands, he wild." But either way, the accusation comes at a crazy time for him, considering he is still the subject of a federal investigation. Now news broke on March 25th that Homeland Security had raided his properties in LA and Miami, though reports claim that his sons King and Justin had been home at the time. So things have obviously been very tense when you consider all this happening at the same time. Now let's get into his feud with Jay-Z. Things started off really well. Their friendship traces back to the 1990s when both artists made their mark in the music industry. Now despite the competitive nature of hip-hop, Diddy and Jay found common ground in their shared ambition for music. In 1997, the pair collaborated on a track that landed on No Way Out, Diddy's debut studio album. But only a few years later, both of their careers were subject to controversy. The rappers found themselves in legal turmoil and they were facing the same amount of time in jail. Although they both ended up walking free, they simply could not get away from the backlash. An incident that occurred in 2007 has now resurfaced amid the allegations against Diddy. In a video from a performance at Screamfest 07, he appears to touch Jay's butt, even though the moment is hard to see on camera. But that did not stop 50 Cent from using the clip to drag Jay-Z into Diddy's drama. 50 took to Instagram in November to troll the two of them, suggesting that Diddy intentionally slapped him. Now the video has been shared on YouTube and TikTok, and people can't stop talking about the moment. Now the comments are pretty brutal. People wrote things like "this aged well," which of course it did not. Wendy Williams was also someone who became Diddy's enemy. The talk show host is notoriously known for throwing a lot of shade to a lot of celebrities, and Combs was one of these celebs. In the 1990s, when she was a radio host, she stated that she believed that Diddy was gay, which is a comment that did not sit well with him. So much so that he got Williams fired from the station. And clearly, the two of them have never been friends since that went down. Wendy's career did a major turnaround when she got on TV, but she did not stop being critical of Diddy's character. Things got tense once again in 2015 when she claimed that he was using Cassie as a possession rather than a partner, which is some real foreshadowing when you think about how everything went down. While Williams said she was over the feud in 2017, the two never reconciled, and they clearly still don't see eye to eye. When it comes to the world of rap, artists like Diddy, Kanye, and Jay-Z all keep a tight-knit relationship. But when things went south between Jay-Z and Kanye West, it seems like Diddy got caught in the middle, completely straining his relationship with Kanye. Years after falling out, things seemed to improve between the men, and most likely because time heals all wounds. In fact, Kanye attended Diddy's 50th birthday party, which just goes to show you that they have really patched things up. And lastly, we have to mention Drake. The Canadian artist has become one of the hottest rappers in the music industry over the last several years. Many even compared him to Diddy and Jay-Z. While comparing never goes well, it seems things took a bad turn when Diddy and Drake had a physical altercation over a song. The dispute was over the song 0 to 100, but Diddy denies the allegations that he ever touched Drake, whereas Drake and other celebs, including Charmaine the God, claimed that he saw it happen for himself. So this one was definitely an awkward situation.